good for me if I overate. I mean, honestly, nuts was something that I should stay away from, but I did eat them.
Angela, you're on TV.
You're on TV. It needs to be swung around. So that's what I considered a relapse, even though I never picked up the foods that I'd been abstaining from.
Well, because you still had behavior that actually made you sick, and you said you were sick for a couple of days after, right? You had a really bad stomach ache.
So this is how the conversation started, because I'm going, what is the difference? You know, maybe is clean time, do we take away the clean time that I've had and said that I relapsed, and it became a whole debate. The point is I used at the beginning of the year.
And the point is that we need to step into our recovery, and you know, they say that whole one day at a time thing, and they're right. They're right. So whatever happened yesterday, there's nothing that we can do about. But what we do at the second, this start, that's super important. Do we, in the rooms of AA and AOA, do they denote our clean time? Yes, they do. For me, is that important? Yes, it is. I had 7 years clean. I had a 7-year medallion. And I needed to start all over again when I relapsed. That was one of the most horrifying parts for me. So for me, giving up that 7-year medallion added to my shame, meaning that I had a whole bunch of stuff to work on, because shame is one of my MOs, whether I'm in active addiction or not. And so that's one of the things that I needed to work on for myself. If you, Allie, if you had 7 years clean and you relapsed, the only thing that I would feel for you is a little sad. And I'd want to know if you had some help, if you needed some help. But when it comes to me and my own stuff and not being perfect, for me, I have a lot of shame for that, shame about those things. And that's part of addictive behavior. It's part of addictive thinking that leads to our addictive behavior. And so for me, that's why picking up that white chip is super important. Also, humility. You know, for me, every day for 30 days, I raised my hand and said, today I have 1 day clean, today I have 2 days clean, so that I wasn't hiding anything from the people in the rooms that saw me and thought that I was the person with 7 years clean. And that's something that my sponsor told me to do, and I do whatever my sponsor tells me to do. So that was one of the challenges or the tasks that I had from her. And for me, starting over again was a big deal, and it's kind of a deterrent this time. For me, it's one of the things that helps me stay clean. Not one of the things that helps me stay in recovery, but one of the things that helps me stay clean so I don't have to pick up that white chip again. So for me, whatever gets you through, so that you don't pick up today, so that it's easier for you to stay clean.
For me, it was also that commitment to myself, being able to stand up in front of other people and pick up a white chip was really that commitment to say, listen, my life is unmanageable and I really am stepping into working on myself and into a process. And it was part of my mindset. I needed to be accountable to myself and make that commitment by standing up. I found it easier to get a white chip in OA than I did in NA, I must be quite honest. I didn't realize that I needed to be in NA. It took me a lot longer to get into that room. It was easier for me to step into OA because I was more obsessed about my body image and the food.
And the OA was apparent.
Yes.
So OA, if you're post surgery and you're losing weight, and you were obese before, everybody knows that's happening. Right? And if you're smoking a joint, nobody knows unless you're getting high around your peeps.
Right, and in my head, I had that one addiction was worse than the other.
Well, of course, they think my addiction is worse.
And I thought people in NA were a lot scarier, and, you know, I'd seen a lot of bikers and whatever, and I never put myself in the same category, I mean, talk about ego, as these people in the rooms, until I actually realized I'm just like the people in the rooms, and addiction really is addiction no matter how you spin it. Because it's the same process, it's that same mental obsession, it's that same powerless over whatever that substance is that I was using at that stage to change how I was feeling and not dealing with my emotions. So it could swing from food to drugs to cigarettes to whatever it was, but it wasn't being authentic and honest with myself and really dealing with the emotions.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you guys, our addiction makes every single one of us the same. Whether you're a food addict or a heroin addict, whether you live in the big house or you're living under a bridge, the addiction part is the same. Our skewed or crazy thinking, walking around in fear, having anxiety, feeling that those feelings that we're not good enough, we're less than, all of those things that we walk around with, thinking that we're the center of the universe, walking around thinking about how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, instead of how you are today, and being concerned about how you are today, being of service. Because when I'm so in my own head, I might go to work, and for that time work. But when I don't have other tasks to do, I'm hanging out with me, usually isolating, really, really scared of what's going to happen or what already happened. And so I missed the movie today. And so when we talk about recovery, we talk about happiness. When we talk about spiritual principles, we talk about honesty first. And so most importantly, when you said that it was harder for you to pick up a white chip in the rooms of NA, that's something that you had a harder time being honest with yourself about, that you are the same as anybody under a bridge. So am I, man. Don't matter where we live. If we're addicts, we're addicts, we're addicts.
Right, and the insidiousness of addiction, especially when it comes to food, is it's more socially accepted in a way.
Yes, it is. So is alcohol, by the way.
So for me, that realization that really drugs for me are just as big an issue, because it started with the drugs and the food at the same time. I got into amphetamines. I started using them when I was 7 years old and really got into them full blown by the time I was 12. But the thing is, really, I was still able to go to work overweight and still show up overweight. But whereas if I was, fucked up out of my bracket, stoned, that I couldn't be driving my car or really be performing in a way that was acceptable or functioning, the two were so incongruous to me. The drugs seemed so much worse, but the feelings were exactly the same. The guilt, the shame, the demoralization, the total obsession was exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. And so again, it's never about what you're picking up. It's always going to be, why am I picking up? Not what am I picking up? Anybody have anything to say about that? You have any thoughts about that?
Good morning, firstly.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. No.
No?
What do you mean, why, I know why am I picking up, but I don't quite understand.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Thank you for asking that question. And so when we talked about you picking up last week, we talked about how you had a really stressful situation.
I was tired.
Okay, you had a stressful day too, didn't you?
Yeah, my brother's sick,
Yeah, your brother's sick. And so that's a little bit of a stressor, right? You care about your brother. Yeah, that little bit of a stressor, and you were tired. I don't know if you were physically tired and or emotionally exhausted. I don't know which one, because, I'm not your therapist, you know what I mean? So we didn't have a conversation about that. But whatever it was, it drove you to old behaviors that you haven't done in quite a while. Correct? And you have talked in this room about how it gets easier and easier and easier, right? As the time goes on, that the more time that your brain had clean, the easier it was not to pick up. Mm-hmm. But something happened. You guys in the room, they use halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and those as stressors, that when we're feeling any of those things, we're more apt to pick up. And so, for you, you binged, right?
I'm not going to argue that, but I really didn't. But I committed assault and pretzel.
Okay,
and,
fair enough. So you committed assault and pretzel. You told us about it.
Right.
Right. Okay. And then what you choose to do with that information after is going to be up to you. I'm going to tell you, for me, as an addict, there ain't no doubt in anyone's mind that I'm an addict, or what kind of addict I am. I'm like the addict of the worst kind. I'm going to tell you that for me, there's always some type of stressor. When I first got clean, I had to learn how to live with my son's passing away. And so it was really apparent. It was like, oh, she's got this problem, and that's why she used. That was, I would imagine, the icing on the proverbial cake. But when I relapsed because I wasn't in my program, right? I didn't have a sponsor at the time, and I was walking around with a lot of fear. They say resentments will take you out faster than anything. For me, I don't carry too much resentment, but fear is my thing. Fear is the way that I lived after my son died. So having that fear, and when I'm having that fear, remember, it means I'm afraid of losing what I have, or or not getting what I want. We had a really big project on the table. I wasn't making anybody hear me about how scared I was. And it was, opportunity met Percocets. And for me, it was the perfect opportunity to lie to myself. Spiritual principle behind the first step, honesty. Real easy for me to lie to myself and say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do because I'm in pain. As opposed to on the third day, this is what I'm doing because I'm a drug addict. I never got that far. And so that was the beginning of my relapse. So for me, my relapse, and I've always said this, I always have an emotional relapse. And when I'm relapsing emotionally, which means I'm going backward instead of forward emotionally, that's my relapse. Picking up is the end result of my relapse.
Yeah, I just remembered something because it is kind of early for me. That when I had my event, and I'm just putting this out there just because this is a lab and all information we're trying to figure out, that I was feeding my neighbor's cats. And so they have, crap all, they have all kinds of candy. And so every day when I'd walk into the kitchen, there's this big bag of pretzels. And it wasn't closed. I mean, it had a clip on it. And so every day I'd walk in there and, it just, these big, I'm a pretzel guy. And there they were. I'd walk in the kitchen. And so one day I went to feed the cats. And I just ended up eating these pretzels, and it just kind of happened.
Right, and so in the rooms they say if you hang out in the barber shop long enough, you're bound to get a haircut.
Too bad you don't end up getting hair.
Yeah, that's true. And so, but truthfully, so for me, if I'm not real strong in my recovery today, sitting in a bar ain't a good idea. It's just not a good idea for me.
What I'm trying to say,
I understand what you're saying. You're saying opportunity met whatever kind of anxiety you were having, just like me with the Percocet.
Right.
I went to the dentist. He wrote a prescription, and he wrote another prescription, and another prescription, and another prescription. I still had the choice. I was abstinent before I went to the dentist, for 7 years. So I still had that choice to take the effing pills or not to take the effing pills. And I got to raise my hand and take the foul for that, because if not, I'm lying to myself. And when I'm lying to myself, I'm not in recovery.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah, and that's my recovery.
Right, and I absolutely understand that. I buy that. It just seemed to just happen.
And you guys, so I'm going to say that's what every single addict says. Is that what every addict says?
Exactly
every single addict says
to
that.
Me, so many
happened
times.
To me. Not that I did.
No,
right?
it happens to me.
Right?
Okay,
Victim.
when I go into that mechanical mode of not being present and conscious of what I'm doing. When I go into those old behaviors, it's very easy for me to pick up and nosh as I go. But when I'm in recovery, I'm very conscious of what I'm thinking and what I'm doing, because if I'm not sticking on a certain path, I'm all over the place, and that's when I get into trouble.
Because my orientation, living at home obviously, working at home, I don't have any stuff around.
Okay, but I'm going to say it again. This is Hades' house. There's alcohol all over the house. I've never snuck a drink in the morning when she's inside putting on her makeup.
Excuse me, this is Hades' house, and Hades' house is full of people that eat different things. My husband is a normal eater. He eats chocolate. My one kid eats chips. I'm not taking the stuff out of the house because I make sure it doesn't speak to me. I'm at a stage with my abstinence and where I am in my program, it doesn't speak to me, and this is their thing.
And it doesn't speak to you.
My recovery is my responsibility.
Right.
The choices I make are my choices at the end of the day. And I can't go blaming other people. I have to be responsible for me.
And you can't blame the chips either. Yeah. So what Hades saying is when I'm strong, when I'm feeling strong in my recovery, the chips aren't talking to me. When the chips are talking to me, it's because my head, listen you guys, again, we don't put down the chips or the Percocets and amazingly we become all normal. Doesn't happen like that. We work on our problems with anxiety, with feeling less than, with depression, with fear. We work on those as we work on our recovery. When the day comes that the chips are talking, then it's up to me or to you to pick up the phone, reach out to call your sponsor, reach out to somebody in your community. We've got this Why Wait for Recovery community. There are always lots and lots and lots and lots of people to reach out to, right? To reach out to someone and say, you know what, I'm about to mess up. Help me, down from the ledge.
And just talking about community, I just want to swing off for 1 second. We are on Zoom, so anyone who's live streaming us on Facebook, I pinned to the top of the page the meeting ID to get into Zoom. It's a free meeting. You can hop into the conversation right now just by logging in and jumping in and having your voice heard. Welcome everyone online. We do live stream, we do record these sessions. Only Felice and I can be seen. None of the other participants are recorded or shown other than they can see each other in the room. The best way to get into recovery is to start talking.
Right.
It's taking the first step, saying we're powerless over our disease and our life is unmanageable, and start talking.
And also, Allison, I'm just gonna, without saying anything, so we had a conversation yesterday about behaviors or things that we do, like when I'm eating Percocet, I have a stomach ache because I know that I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing, right? That doesn't sit right with me. That's not okay for my recovery, right? And so we know that there are certain behaviors, right, where we do a certain thing or we use or whatever we're doing, and we don't feel okay after, correct?
Right.
And so as soon, and I believe, they say follow your gut, you kind of have that stomach ache before it's going to happen. You kind of have that thought of, is this okay? Is this not okay? How am I going to feel after? Maybe a little bit of a thought about that. When you're having that thought, step away.
The last time I planned to use, I knew it was going to happen. I knew they say people, places. They say people, places, and things. I knew I was going to South Africa, to the old crowd, to the old places, and there was a really good chance of me getting back into some of my old habits. And before I picked up, I'd already had that thought and I was kind of mulling it around and justifying it. I knew when I picked up that I was picking up.
So did I.
And I
knew before you told me.
And I stepped right into those old behaviors of being surreptitious, of getting up earlier,
of isolating,
of lying, of pretending, of all those things that I was doing. With no matter what I'm doing at that stage that makes me feel guilty and ashamed, I have exactly the same behaviors, and I become mean. I become very short with people, and I become very intolerant, and then I become very quiet. So that way I can pretend, and then I start embarrassing myself and doing crazy, crazy stuff. And the lunatic comes out.
Yeah. And so that lunatic is what we're working on when we are working. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. The lunatic is what we're working on when we're actually working on our recovery, so that we can see the world differently, so that we can learn to change our perspective, because you guys, it's all we can change is our perspective and our own actions. I can't change your actions or your perspective, but I can change mine. And I can work on getting out of self, getting out of myself, getting out of my own head, being of service to the community, and learning how to look at things happy. And most important, people talk about the steps, their fourth step, that whatever. You don't got the first step, you don't got that recovery.
What's the first step?
Honesty is the spiritual principle behind the first step. And it's not me being honest with you, it's me being honest with me. Because when I'm honest with me, I can be honest with you. As long as I ain't honest with me, I'm not getting honest with anybody. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I thought of a question or an issue.
Sure.
After I was piled on for breaking the oath, it occurred to me that I got right back on really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a distinction, I think, from picking up after a long period of being clean, that you're less saturated or imbued with substance. So if you're inclined, you have a window where you can get back on the wagon.
Okay, so here's the thing. I had 7 years clean. It didn't happen for me that way. I used for about 8 months. But let me ask you a question, you guys. I'm going to ask you a question. You guys out there, good morning. If I come in this morning and tell everybody I shot up last night, but I don't plan on doing it again today, Does anybody have a problem with telling me that I relapsed?
No.
No, I effing relapsed, right? I come in this morning with a needle sticking out of my arm. It's a relapse. Whether I shot up once or I shot up 100 days in a row, that one heroin shot is a relapse. That's what it is. For my own recovery, I have to be very clear about what a relapse is. Right? Because for my own recovery, the day that I say that I slipped is the day that I'm lying to myself, is the day that I'm giving myself that excuse, which gives me next week another great excuse, because you know what, it's just a slip. For me, that's me lying to me, and that puts me right back in those addict behaviors. That's me. That's what my life as an addict looks like.
My life as an addict is, I was a shapeshifter. So I would move places. I probably moved to 20 different locations in 5 years.
What do you mean?
Because I moved physically from home to different places during the time that I was smoking. Pot is my drug of choice. Done all the others, but pot was really my drug of choice, and that is what my go-to was. I would change locations so people didn't know me. You could know me superficially, and I get on really well with people superficially until I needed to go deeper. When I got married, we shifted from South Africa to America. Stopped the pot, but got more into the food. So I've always had this thing of smoking, eating, and it's always been a continual thing until my life became so unmanageable that I blew out my colon and I was shitting into a bag for 3 months when I had a colostomy. There was a good chance I couldn't reverse that. So I could have done what I did and lived like that for the rest of my life, having a bag that you're crapping into, and trust me, the shame and stuff that came with it, my own personal journey, and I have a huge amount of respect for people who are ill and have to live with things and challenges that we don't need to on a daily basis. But that still didn't stop my addiction. I still gained 80 pounds after that. That's how sick I was. Wow. And because I didn't believe that the food was a problem. I thought everyone else in my life was the issue.
And let me ask you a question. When you picked up that first joint, did you consider it a relapse?
No, I considered it fantastic.
She was a lion.
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely unbelievable.
We're talking about at relapse, not 1,000 years ago, right?
For the first time I picked it up, I thought it was unbelievable until 3 days later, my life was a living hellhole. I was embarrassing myself. I was embarrassing my kids. I was doing behaviors that I should not, that a normal person doesn't do. And what started off as like a 3-second, 5-minute happiness turned into a living nightmare and put me back to where I was before, living with that shame and that guilt and that demoralization. And if I think of the amount of money that I've wasted over the years in trying to chase that high, that fantastic high, be it in drugs or food or whatever it is, it was never the same. And I reached a stage where I was smoking so much, but I wasn't getting high. And there's nothing worse, okay, than being in this state of needing to use, having to use, and this constant obsession and this constant cycle. I was clean on the food. Amazingly, I was really clean on the food. But on the other stuff, I was smoking pot, but the thing is, it doesn't make me eat. The thing, really? But irrespective, that wasn't the issue. The issue was I was lying to my friends, I was lying to myself, I was lying to my family. I was being surreptitious. I was just really not that person.
She was an active addiction.
She was an active addiction.
Right. And she was in addiction, active addiction here, long before she picked up. And that's the thing. What fears do I have? What anxiety am I having? Why don't I feel comfortable enough in my own skin to stay clean? And we just had that question. What was that? What my definition of clean is?
What is the definition of clean?
So let's talk about what we're talking about. So if it's do they want definition of clean as far as obesity goes, or just in general? For me, clean time is being abstinent from your drug of choice and any other mind altering stuff. So if I stop doing Percocet, but I'm spending $5,000 a day gambling, I ain't clean. If I stop eating rice, bread, potato, pasta, starches and sweets, and I start smoking pot every day, I ain't clean. If I'm going out there and having behaviors that aren't keeping me healthy, that I know aren't keeping me healthy, even though I'm not picking up my drug of choice or I'm not starving myself, I'm still not clean. Yes?
So what's the definition for clean eating?
So clean eating. So you guys, if we're going to talk about that physiologically, we got to give thanks to that dopamine receptor that keeps us addicted. And so the dopamine receptor, the triggers for that are pleasure center in the brain, which dopamine receptors crack, sugar, same. And so everything that they're looking at now, they're looking at how sugar is 7 times more addictive than crack cocaine is. And so when we talk about not stimulating that receptor, we're talking about rice, bread, but we're talking about starches and sweets. So if you look up what a starch is, whole wheat bread is a starch. We know if you're a diabetic, I have to cover you with insulin if you eat a piece of bread, no matter what color it is. I have to cover you with insulin if you're having a sweet potato or a baked potato. So the people that kid themselves and think that they can have all the brown stuff because it's not white stuff, you're lying to yourself, because physiologically, it still raises the blood sugar, which is going to stimulate that dopamine receptor, which is the receptor that's involved with asking our brain for more and more and more and more.
I just want to jump in here as well. You know, for us that have had bariatric surgery or the binges and purges, that 20-minute rule doesn't apply. So chewing and spitting.
What 20-minute rule?
Well, when I was binging and purging, I would purge within 20 minutes of eating. That was my thing. So if it was hitting my stomach, I was getting it out of my system, so it didn't count. You know, if after bariatric surgery, for some of us that were, because we couldn't eat that much because you're getting full, you could chew and spit. So if it didn't go into your system, you could chew and spit it up. So the thing is, that is not clean eating. That is still addictive behaviors. Chewing gum incessantly, where you're chewing 50 packs of gum a day, is still not healthy for your system.
That'd be a great concept for a restaurant,
right?
All you can't eat.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That is, and the anorexic in me. You were telling me about somebody that you knew that was chewing and spitting, and immediately I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. I was like, wow, nobody will ever know. I'll be so skinny. It'll be so great. Like, why didn't I ever think of that? That's where this brain goes to with that great idea, until I check myself and say, what is it that you need to be chewing and spitting about? What is it that you need to have that control over? Or how am I so lacking in control?
You two are fucked up.
Yeah. No. And we don't say nothing about it except that we're fucked up, man. We're addicts. We are 2 women who are doing our best right now to do our best to move forward in our recovery.
Well, I just have to say something. You know, the day I realized I was fucked up was a blessing, because that was the day that I stepped into the rooms and it started speaking to me. Because all of a sudden I realized I'm around a bunch of crazies. I fitted in. I could talk about these subjects, and people out there knew exactly what I was talking about. When I talk about binging and purging and spitting and chewing, do you know how many people are giving us thumbs up and loves on the internet because this speaks to us? So by being able to talk about it instead of holding it in, because my outside manifested all those emotions and those feelings that I was carrying on the inside. I'm fat on the inside. You know, the stuff that I carry on the inside is, all of a sudden I had that space to go, do you know what? I may be crazy, but there is a solution. I may be crazy, and maybe it's my thinking that I've been doing for the last 42 years that has kept me sick, because I thought that that was the answer, and maybe there's something else. And the day I started becoming healthier was the day that I found community. When I actually found people that were like me, that loved me, that didn't judge me, that we could sit and laugh about the crap that I do, and they had done just as crazy stuff as me.
And that's the thing.
It's okay.
Yeah, so we think that we've got this terminal uniqueness. We're so special and we're so different, and no one's ever felt the way that I felt. And so, of course, nobody's ever done what I've done. And there's no way that you walk into a room with a group of addicts and say something that you did. There's never a time where somebody doesn't say, I did that yesterday. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that, because you know what, I did that last week, or I've had it in my head to do that today. We ask them.
Yeah, one second. And you know, the crazy thing is, I was so lonely at the height of when I was using. I was the loneliest person on the planet, because I couldn't talk to my husband, I couldn't talk to my kids, I couldn't talk to anybody about my addiction, because I was carrying so much shame and guilt, and they would never understand that all of a sudden stepping into the rooms gave me that space to start healing. And that is something I'm so grateful for. I mean, this for me has been the most cathartic and life-changing experience ever.
When I, real quick, but cathartic. When I first met Haiti, we had a conversation about how I wanted to open up a treatment center for obesity recovery. And Haiti was obese. And by the way, we're working on this obesity recovery thing, and we have this connection, right? And we become friends immediately. And then I see her in the hospital. And I'm going to the hospital every day to see you. Yeah, 3 weeks later.
This is 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm going into the hospital every day to see her. And she still don't think she has a problem. So she thinks it's awesome that I'm an addict and that I'm talking about it. And she feels bad for those addict people, feels a little sad for them, and really feels like there's something in her heart that would you know, make her feel real happy to be of service and to help me.
And look good.
Help me, you know, go through my journey. You are in so much denial, and that's where everybody is, man. When I relapsed, you know, my boyfriend at the time, first time after 2 months, came up to me and said, if you were my sponsee, I'd have you pick up a white chip. And I told him, a white chip. And I told him to work his own fucking program. And at 4 months, when he came to me crying, and he said, I'm afraid you're going to die, because he was really the only one that knew the extent of what was going on with me, because on opiates, nobody knows I'm on opiates. He said, I'm afraid that you're going to die. And again, I said, work your own fucking program, man. Leave me alone. So when we talk about that denial, the denial's real. Like, it's a real thing, you know, it's out there. And that's one thing that all of us have in common. And so when we want to call our relapses a slip, you be in denial. Can we hear from the girls?
Sure. Can we also just say a quick shout out to the people who are live streaming?
Yes.
Hi Linda, hi Eileen, Amy, Charlie, Glenda, Cheryl, and Kitty, and everyone else out there. But jump into the room. There's still time to get onto Zoom.
Oh, we have somebody from Romania. That's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so we add Romania to our Ireland and our Israel
and
our
South Africa and Australia.
Yeah, and all over the United States. So very cool.
Romania.
Very cool. Good morning, ladies. Good morning. Jess, you have anything to share with us this morning?
So talking about like being in recovery of like everything, including any mood altering substances. So last night, out to dinner, and my friend was joking, you should check in saying we're having cocktails because her family doesn't drink. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm in recovery. Another friend said, but you're not in recovery from alcohol, are you? And I said, I'm in recovery from everything. I don't use any mood altering substances at all. So it was kind of freeing, and I felt good sticking up for myself and just not feeling ashamed to say that. So it was good.
Yeah, congratulations for that. Your sponsor, I'm sure, is proud.
Wow.
So that's awesome. So that's you stepping into your awesomeness, man. That's you stepping into you, letting go of the shame, and saying, yeah, I'm an addict. This is the way that my world looks. So that's amazing.
So I have to ask you a question. Did you have an awesome time going out? And did you enjoy yourself?
I didn't have to wonder how I was going to get home.
Nor did you have to wonder how you're going to tell all of us this morning, right?
True.
Right.
Two of my friends said, I feel like I have to have dessert for you since it's your birthday. So they had dessert and I was fine. So they enjoyed it.
And you gave...
And I didn't care.
For your birthday, you gave yourself the gift of recovery, right? Which I think is a shit ton more important than a piece of cake. Right? Right. You got to wake up not ashamed this morning. And that's the best birthday gift that you could give yourself. Congratulations for that. Good girl.
Thank you.
Miss Karen?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
As many of you know, I had a difficult day yesterday just in terms of the circumstances, but I was pretty pleased and, satisfied with my actions and managed to keep my perspective on the positive side. So everything worked out and we all live to tell about it. So it was an okay day.
That's awesome. And we talked about yesterday in class about changing your perspective, right? And about being so grateful for the things that were awesome that were going on, as opposed to just having all of those negative feelings and just looking at what wasn't so awesome. And I know that that's something you've been working on for a couple of years. You know, it's funny. We have people that are working on stuff for a couple of years, and then they start doing step work or recovery work, and it switches for them. So
exactly. That's exactly what's happening for me.
I know. I'm so happy for you.
I'm so unique.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So again, we're talking about addiction, your addiction, and how it has to do with your feelings. And those feelings, right, of being afraid, of being resentful, right, of being put in the middle, of being disrespected, those feelings are what need to change so that you don't pick up.
Exactly.
Right, and so that's what you're working on. So thank you so much for sharing that.
My habit would have been that I would come home and just, dive into the refrigerator and the cabinets and whatever I could find.
Yeah.
Because I was so frustrated. But I didn't have to do that because I wasn't as frustrated.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, girls.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if you're visiting her in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and at what point, so you're obese, you're visiting her in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
at what point did you start doing something?
Okay, so I'll tell you at which point I started doing something.
Doing something for her cleanness?
Yeah, yeah.
For her sobriety? Her cleanness.
It took me over a year. It took me over a year to actually, in fact, it took me nearly 2 years before I started understanding recovery. So what I did in the interim is I came out of hospital, I did HCG, I did all other crazy diets and my serial dieting kind of thing because, it was a diet. I never had the willpower and I wasn't strong enough and good enough to be on a diet. And my relationship with Felice was as her commercial realtor and she was my client. And we became friends over time. It didn't just happen instantaneously because remember, I'm the addict and I'm very guarded and I present well, but you don't get to know me on the inside.
Are you identifying that in her?
So the first day that I talked with her about why wait for recovery, she sat at the table and cried. She didn't say why she was crying. I was talking about food addiction.
And this is how long before you got?
This is couple years.
This is 4 years ago. Okay, and then I had my surgery.
So what were you crying about?
Because it touches things. Addiction, when addicts talk to addicts, this is the crazy thing, is we connect on a level of hearts. It's heart-to-heart conversation.
But you didn't do anything for years.
Right, but it triggers.
She wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. Recovery happens when we're ready. And not only that. And willing. But also there's that we only get messages when we're ready to get those messages. And
yes, students ready, teacher appears.
And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes even the messages we're getting, we may hear them 50, 60, 70, 100 times before we're actually willing and open to receive them and actually take them on and internalize them. So even though I've been hearing about recovery and in the interim you
and obesity recovery, and you went for bariatric surgery.
And I go for bariatric surgery because I'm the addict.
But she don't got no problem, by the way.
And I'm not going for therapy and I'm not going for anything. I'm the addict. I want the quick fix. I walk in, give them cash, do the surgery. This is how I work.
And she honestly thought that losing 100 pounds, that once she was a skinny chick, that she was going to be all better.
That would make me happy.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I'd been going to meetings with Felice during that time as well.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like the days of our lives.
Why were you going to meetings with her?
Because
She's support for the addict.
Oh, wow.
The poor, sick, and suffering addict. She was supported. Of course she was.
Right, and this was like days of our lives and the soap operas and the dramas, like sitting on Facebook and live streaming us. You can watch it and participate, but you're not really actively in it. And it's entertaining. I mean, it really is interesting. Until you go, oh shit, you know what? I'm no different. I'm just exactly.
At what point did you say,
I'm
no different?
Probably within like a week of having bariatric surgery, I had that oh shit moment. That oh shit, what do I do from here? Okay, not only was I uncomfortable from the surgery, I was scared going into it. I couldn't do the things that I needed to do before, which was chewing. Not the spitting, but the chewing. I also couldn't eat when I was uncomfortable.
Why couldn't you chew?
because I just had bariatric surgery and I was on liquids. Your first couple of months, your whole food regimen changes.
Yeah, so you don't die.
And not only that, I'd spend so much money to do it. Firstly, being younger, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But the point is, all of a sudden,
Sorry,
I didn't have the crutch. I didn't have the crutch of being able to go to my food when I was feeling anxious, scared, frustrated,
lonely, less than.
all those other things, not seen, not heard, all those other things that I was feeling. I couldn't go to the food, and then all of a sudden I had a conversation with Felice, and we started discussing it more, and I started stepping into step work.
She started stepping into honesty
into
with
honesty,
herself.
but also asking for help, because at that stage.
Did you really, really, really believe? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You'd have this operation and you didn't have to do a fucking thing afterwards?
No, I thought I'd have to continue dieting. I thought
Right.
I would, if I could have stapled my mouth shut, and can I tell you, I've done so many extreme things in terms of my food and my food choices and dieting and cereal dieting. There's not much I haven't done to my body between the pills and everything else I've taken and the thousands and thousands of dollars I've spent on trying to get thin and look good, until I realized it actually isn't about the looking good, it's the feeling good. And that doesn't cost anything in terms of stepping into recovery, but you need a program to be able to do it. And the first step was really being honest and asking for help and saying, listen, I'm powerless over this. I'm totally powerless over my disease. It is a disease. It's not a choice. Addicts are not addicts because we choose to be addicts.
All our brain chemistry is different.
The way we obsess and think about things isn't like a normal person. Normal people don't go stealing stuff and lying about it. I was stealing my kids' candy and lying to them that I hadn't taken it. I've done stuff before that people don't do the things that I was doing. Okay, normal people don't do it.
But food addicts do. Everybody does. And let me ask you a question. Are you an intelligent thinking human being?
I'm a Democrat.
I believe that you're an intelligent thinking human being, correct? You write amazingly. I read your writings to people. So you're a very intelligent human being. How many times did you diet and lose weight?
Oh, a lot.
Once?
No,
3 times?
a lot.
40 times? A whole lot, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
countless.
Why?
63.
Okay,
A lot.
right. Lots and lots and lots. So even though you're very intelligent, and by the way, the smarter you are, the harder the recovery is, because we're self-manipulating. We believe our own bullshit because we could speak it real good to you. I could sound real good to you. And as long as I got you believing it, then I believe that you believe that I believe it. That's ego. How you see me is what's important, and I can continue to be just, awesome and an active addiction. So I think. But, so you just said to Haiti in amazement, you're so smart, and what did you think? And didn't you think? What did you think every time you used after you lost 60 pounds? What were you thinking?
I was thinking that I am succumbing to the realities of the world I'm living in and not doing what I have to do, because it's harder to do the stuff you have to do, and sometimes you end up not doing it.
Right, correct.
And so, because I had spent a lot of years really keeping it in check, like decades really.
Okay.
Well, I was a gym guy, I've been a swimmer my whole life, and so I was able to keep a modicum of
But let's not talk about the modicum or the decades. Let's talk about each time you relapsed. Let's talk about each time you spent so much effort and energy on helping yourself get healthy that you decide one day it's okay to go back to your behaviors, which you know.
I don't think I decided that. I think it just happened.
Okay, so you're an addict.
Right.
So you go back to your behaviors. I don't believe that we're victims. So I do believe that when I pick up, there's some consciousness when I have some clean time. There's some I am conscientious of the fact that I'm doing something that in the long run is going to hurt me. I believe that we do have that moment of clarity, and because spiritually we're not in recovery, we choose not to be honest. That's what I believe.
That's true, but I also think what is also true, that we live in an environment, a world where it's constant bombardment of everything, of all this. It's all there. So
okay.
So it's not a lot of thinking has to happen for you to screw up, really.
Right, but so again,
like my pretzel event.
Again, there's a stove in every single house, right? So I put my hand on the stove and I burn my hand. And my brain says, ruh-roh, that was hot. And I don't do it again. I go to that effing stove and use it every single day. It's there. It's something I use every day of my life. I know cognitively that when I put my hand on that stove, my hand is going to get burned. Do I do it again? No, I don't. You know why? Because I could think that through to the end. So what the end of that looks like is I've got burns all over my hands and I have to bandage up the hand and then I have to go to the doctor and I have to get the, I can visualize all that. It's not visualizing. What we do is we make excuses, whatever those excuses are, that allow us to start using without visualizing what it's going to look. At the end of that first Oreo, you guys in the rooms, they say one is too many. One is too many because there ain't no such thing as one, because 1,000 is never enough. Our brains don't have that clock like other people's do that say, wow, when my kids were little, we had the 3 cookie rule in my house. No one was ever allowed to have more than 3 cookies at a time. Ever. You had 3 cookies for the day, and that was all the cookies that you got for the day, and that was like a given. So it wasn't, well, if they had 1 cookie and they felt like they needed 150 more, they could have it. With us, it don't look like that. You know how badly my brain still goes back to shit, like, and remember, I relapsed on opiates. I haven't had a drink in 9 years, but I relapsed on opiates. My brain, there's somewhere in my brain that actually still believes, I have to say this out loud, still believes that I'm capable of having 1 drink and not going back to, but no matter what, I won't do it. First of all, because I get pee tested, thank you very much. But beside that, I won't do it because I do know what it looks like to be in intensive care in the hospital because I've OD'd again on alcohol.
So I just have to say something. Normal people don't wake up out of a dead sleep at 2:30 in the morning and go, I'm hungry, let me go to the refrigerator and get something. This happened to me 2 nights ago. Dead sleep, wake up, bolt out upright. I'm hungry, let me go eat. I'm going, this is bullshit. There's no way at 2:30 in the morning that you can be that hungry that you've got to get up and go eat something. If behavior modification worked, the very first diet I did would have worked. I wouldn't have done a million other diets since then. I wouldn't have tried to work different systems to lose weight because it would have been behavior modification and would have been done.
That makes you not an addict.
That would be a normal person. I'm an addict because I can stay off something for 6 months. I can be doing the gym, I can be running, I can
or
be
7
swimming.
years.
I could be abstaining from those foods for long periods of time. All of a sudden, 1 bite turns into 2 bites turn into the cake turns into the drive-thrus, it turns into the lying, it turns into the mindset, it turns into the obsession.
Turns into the
all
fear.
I can think about every single day is when is my next meal, and I'm counting down. Oh, in 2 minutes I can have lunch. What am I eating for dinner while I'm eating lunch? I mean, it becomes my whole day revolves around the food. The stuff that are my triggers are the things that I start staying away from. The things like politics, things that get me going and things that really start affecting my sense of serenity are the things that when I'm in early recovery, and even now, I have choices to what I put into my world and what I step into, because there's a quicker chance of me relapsing if I'm in that state of mind and being with people that are in active addiction, setting me into relapse because I choose to if I'm not strong in my recovery. So the choices I make are something that I'm very cognitive every day. When we say 1 day at a time, I'm talking 1 minute, 1 second, 1 hour, 1 day. For me, it's a constant work. It's not, okay, today is a good day. I'm constantly checking in with myself to see where I'm at and what's going on.
And so that's the part, that's the recovery part. That's the part.
What's the recovery part?
Of checking ourselves, of making sure that we're staying tight with the community, of making sure if she's scared that she picks up the phone and calls Angeli or me or her sponsor or somebody else in the community, who goes to a meeting and says out loud, you know what, last night I really thought about killing myself. Like, that's how despondent and upset and fearful I was. Of telling on ourselves so that we don't keep it a secret. We always talk about how we're only as sick as our secrets, which everybody knows is the truth. Secrets mean I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed keeps me in active addiction. Those things, I'm going to tell you, are facts. They really are. You can ask any addict who's had recovery time, especially addicts who have had recovery and relapsed, what the difference in our mindsets are when that's happening.
What do you mean? What's the difference in the mindset?
Whether we're walking around in fear or not, whether we're telling on ourselves, whether we're keeping secrets, whether we're acting kind of sneaky, whether we're not being, whether it's okay for her to tell herself if she goes away and she's on vacation, it's okay for her to smoke pot. What tells me that, well, I have a prescription and it is from the dentist after all, and I am in pain, so it's okay for me to take however many opiates I want to take after the 72 hours that my brain gets re-addicted. All those nice things that we bullshit manipulate ourselves, and if we say it out loud, I could bullshit manipulate you and have you believing everything that I'm going to say. I promise you I can, because I'm really, really, really good at it. I'm really good at lying to myself.
That's my career.
So when I justify, I lie. That's for me is the biggest telltale. When I start justifying why it's okay, that for me is the biggest red flag that I'm lying to myself.
Oh, you guys out there, just real quick note. So we have a whole bunch of comments, a whole bunch. And so everybody's comment will be replied to. Just wanted to let you guys know that we're not forgetting about you. So we will definitely take a look at what you wrote. And we're going to go ahead and reply to all of those.
Okay, and also to get quicker responses, step onto Zoom.
Get in Zoom, you guys.
Because you can be asking those questions
right.
in real live time. No one sees you on Facebook. The only people that they see are Felice and I. You in Zoom, you can see the other people in the room. That part is not recorded. We do record our sessions and us in this little space on the sofa. But you cannot see who else is here with us unless you step into the room, because you are your own community.
They're on Zoom?
Yeah, they're on their computer.
But why
and
they
where you guys
clothes?
from? Yeah, where are you guys from? I mean, they're not sitting in Florida. They're sitting elsewhere in the country, in different states, in different time zones.
Kansas City and Peoria.
And this is important to them. That's why they make the time to be here and work on their recovery.
And
Good
I
choice.
have to schlep you.
You have to schlep. It happens.
So can we just touch base
yes,
quickly
yes,
for
yes.
2 seconds? So our next meeting is Wednesday night at 9 p.m. One of the things that we do request from everyone is step into service. And you can start by being in service. Sorry, my voice is going. Is by reaching out to someone else.
And
sharing, wait 1 second. Sharing what we are doing now. Please share our live stream with anybody who you think could benefit from this. Anyone who's living with pain, shame, or guilt. That is the easiest and the quickest way of being in service. Send them the hookup for Zoom or to share here, or like what we are doing now. We've got 2 free meetings. It's Wednesdays and Sundays, 9 a.m. on a Sunday, 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. Eastern Standard Time. Do your food plans. As food addicts, if you're a food addict on this, food is essential in our lives in terms of our recovery and being cognizant of what we're eating. And having a plan of eating takes away the obsession and helps us in our recovery. So for me, a food plan is essential. You can post it on our closed group on Facebook. The closed group is only for members. It's a free membership. It's for people who are addicts that want to recover. We post questions, we post our gratitude, we post our food plans, we post our crazy thoughts that we have, like waking up at 2:30, 3:30 in the morning with food dreams. We are a community and we are non-judgmental. And this is a place we come to get well.
Yeah, and we are speaking for ourselves because we aren't judgmental. And you guys, everybody that's out there that's listening, sometimes it don't matter why we show up. Doesn't matter why. Susan hates when I do that. Sometimes it doesn't matter why we show up. It just matters that we show up. Because showing up is taking that first teeny tiny step. If it takes you 2 years to step into some kind of recovery or some kind of honesty so that you could step into recovery, that's a whole lot better than never at all. So start getting honest with yourself. You guys out there with the food addiction, get an accountability buddy. Everybody needs a sponsor, but if you don't have a sponsor, at least get an accountability buddy so that you have somebody that you're accountable to, because it, first of all, it does make us part of the community. And second of all, we know that somebody's got our back. If we're having some kind of challenge, that somebody does have our back, and gives us somebody that we could get a little bit more intimate with, that we could feel a little bit more comfortable with, so that we get less and less scared about sharing, so that we could get more honest, so that we can step into recovery.
So Mary Ellen just asked, where's the information for Zoom? On our page in Facebook.
And we'll repost it.
Wait 1 second. On our page on Facebook, on While Wait for Recovery page, at the top, pinned to the top, is the Zoom information. Just click on it. It is there. And also to join Downsizing Weight Loss is also on our While Wait for Recovery page. Just click on it. It is there. So it's just a matter of looking at the top of the page and all the information is there. Please join us.
Yeah, and also you guys, as far as Downsizing Weight Loss, just want to let you guys know it is a private group. We have people that ask to join. We have a conversation with a lot of those people, and if the food addiction recovery or some kind of addiction recovery ain't your thing, you're not going to be accepted. So I don't want everybody to think that just because we talk about downsizing weight loss and that 7,000 people are going to see this today, that that means that we let everybody join. It is a private group.
And it's not for soliciting, it's not for selling products. We don't endorse any supplements. We don't endorse food plans.
We endorse recovery.
We endorse recovery. So you come with your own food plans, talk to your own professionals, have your own psychologist, have your own nutritionist. This is a place where we are to support each other on each other's journeys. It is not here to advocate for any one type of system or plan.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying hi. You guys, I'm going to read the promises from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because for me, all of these things came true. And my hope for you guys is that when you get honest and step into your recovery, I know that if you step into your recovery and work on it, that all of these things can come true for you as well. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they do always materialize if we work for them. My name is Felice. I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. I'm blessed and grateful for all of you out there. Recovery is awesome. This is our Why Wait for Recovery Wednesday morning meeting. Thank you for joining us. Sunday morning meeting.
My name is Heidi, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. I'm so blessed and grateful for all of you. You are my highlight of my week. This is a great way to start my Sunday and to continue till Wednesday. Bring a friend into recovery. A friend brought me in. It's the way that we reach the rooms. Be of service. Have a fabulous week. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out, you guys. Make it an excellent day.
I still don't understand. For 2 years...
You girls okay?